I don't feel like I ever got a proper chance to introduce myself as an artist or to the music industry as a whole. I feel like that was taken away from me. I lost a lot of autonomy. I was young when I first moved to LA and when I first really started pursuing music. I lacked a lot of confidence, a lot of know-how, a lot of direction, and this is meant to be a cathartic process, like an opportunity to patch up some of those old wounds, work a little bit to reintroduce myself, and I think that it's empowering to talk about some of those things.
I was a seed once, waiting for
guys are saying.
roots find a plan.
When I first moved to LA, I was working with this producer that found me on Instagram. I was doing covers, and he had reached out to me. He was working over at Capitol, and he and I recorded a couple songs when I was still in school, when I was in college. He convinced me to move out to LA and like work on an album with him full time, and we were grinding away for probably a year or two before we met with Chase Duddy, who was looking to start a new project, was looking to develop an artist, and it was my first time like consistently going to a studio to work on music.
Who is I kidding? It's not about the will to change. It's just about the clouds over your head.
It was every single day. We were at his studio working on music. Like I was learning a lot from him about writing and production, and it felt insane. It felt like summer camp, but every single day. And then especially when it came time to like thinking about releasing things, we were like meeting with stylists and shopping sprees and filming music videos and live performances and behind the scenes stuff. And I had a day-to-day manager and I had a videographer that was following me around, and it was like a lot of what I imagined it would be. It was kind of a slow burn. You know, there was a lot of excitement in the beginning and a lot of exploration and discovery, but I met a lot of resistance from some of the people I was working with, but also myself, because I didn't really know what Jordan Tariff sounded like.
Drop it. Good boy. Is the mic up?
Yeah.
What's been your favorite part about being in Vermont?
Oh, we're doing an interview?
Yeah, I'm just gonna try and catch a couple small things.
Honestly, I was thinking about it the other day. It just, like, I guess the best way to describe it, it's been way more peaceful here. I've been able to dig deeper into what's important to me and learn a bit more about who I am and not emulate somebody else's vision. I get to really figure out what's important to me because I don't really have a choice. I'm just here by myself most of the time with him, and that's been really nice. It's always been a similar process, but I feel like the depth or the willingness to explore that depth has changed. I just feel like I get to sit in it more now, which is nice. Because sometimes I'll be sitting here and it'll be like 3 in the afternoon when I first sit down, and I'm like, I'm only gonna play for a couple minutes. And then it's 7 o'clock and I'm like, where did the time go?
Why do I fall? Why do I bleed? Why do I pray to God that never once seemed to notice me? What is the point of I? Why do I fall? Why do I pray to God? Never once seemed to notice me.
I definitely had a bigger ego then than I do now. I just thought that they were stifling what I was trying to create. The idea of me not knowing what I wanted or who I was like this hilarious sort of idea.
That's what I pay to be happy.
I think looking back on it, it's just because it's uncomfortable to feel like you don't know yourself. And when other people see that in you, like it's I feel like most people instantly get defensive. Like, how dare you see this deep secret of mine, that I'm insecure, that I'm unaware of what I want or who I am or what I'm doing. Because when you're in your 20s, you don't ever want to like think that you're doing it wrong. You know, that this is the time when we're supposed to be figuring out the majority of our lives, and like things are supposed to be clicking and you're supposed to be becoming this new independent version of yourself, and to feel like there was some form of a regression was difficult. But I think before I moved back here, I knew that it was the right decision. And then like, most of the time, I don't know, I've also never done it like with a camera in my face. And like, I guess you do it all the time with people around you in sessions, but sometimes I'll just sit here singing gibberish for 20 minutes, you know?
Why do I hurt?
You know, making music looks different here than there. At the time, I started to not feel incredibly well. Started chasing some health issues that I couldn't really put my finger on. Anything that required physical activity, anything that required me to move away from my house, like sessions or traveling for music or writing, like it all felt like a tremendous sacrifice. And that may sound silly because like, how is working on music this incredibly strenuous thing? But like, I'm talking about, there were moments where I was so sick that Eden was picking me up out of bed in the mornings to help me get up and get the day started because I couldn't physically lift myself up. My kidneys and liver were failing. I was having an issue with my pituitary gland, and that's why they sent me off to a neurologist, a hematologist, an endocrinologist, until one day I was diagnosed with Lyme. And at this point, I was working with producers and writers all the time, and it was a much more collaborative experience. But I think I was defaulting to letting those other ideas influence me more than what was really important to me or what story I really wanted to tell or what I really wanted to say. I write a lot of sad songs, and like, that's just what I do. And there's nothing wrong with that. And when I was working with the label before, nobody ever wanted me to write sad music. Like, it always like, okay, stop doing that. Like, you need to do happy or pop songs, or we need like dark, edgy stuff, and that just wasn't me. At least in my experience, like, it really creates this disconnect because I no longer trusted my own intuition. I didn't trust myself. It makes everything very confusing to the point where you're like, okay, maybe I'm not good at this. Maybe none of this matters and I'm just here by circumstance, and like, I need to believe these people. I need to trust these people. You know, even with shaving the head, like, oh, that'd be crazy if I shaved my head, huh? And they were like, do it. And I was like, yeah, that'd be funny. And they're like, no, do it. And kind of got strong-armed into shaving my head. And we were trying to give me this like edgier feel. They didn't really like the fact that I was kind of green, kind of a mama's boy, kind of just like a small town kid that liked to joke around a lot but wrote really sad music. But we weren't even releasing things. And we were calling in favors and like getting studio musicians to come in and like work on the tracks with us, and it just, you know, nothing was coming to fruition. So it really started to taint the process because it was like, fuck, I'm doing all of this. I'm beating myself into the ground to the point where I'm bedridden for a week and nothing even comes of it. We'd have these amazing songs and they might not have been right, but they were right for the moment. And then I'd write a new song that was maybe 1% better. And then it was like, well, hold up. Maybe we record that song and hold off on the other ones. And because that one's better, that one makes more sense. And you repeat that 50 times. You're now in this perpetual loop of like not releasing things because you're always making something better. You're always making something more relevant. You're always learning as an artist. But I don't know why that couldn't have happened in a public way too. It was the definition of insanity. We kept doing the same thing over and over and over again, and I was expecting different results. And at that point I was like, okay, well, this approach hasn't worked. Maybe I do try a different approach. Maybe I do try going home. Maybe I move to a different city. Maybe it's just something about this place right now for whatever reason, right place, wrong time sort of thing. So I finally decided to come back after all that. Just, it all became too much, and I finally listened to what the universe was trying to tell me.
If you were told at some point, okay, I'll never be able to actually share music to a large audience, right? Maybe just a couple people or even just nobody. Would that change much about your relationship with music?
I used to think yes, but let me ask you a question first. Does it look crazy to sit like this? Okay. I used to think yes, but then I haven't done that. I haven't done that, and I'm still here every single day. I'm still here writing music every single day, still upstairs recording music and sharing it with no one. So I don't think it changes a thing. I think that this will always be a part of my life in some way, and it's not like I've ever really done it for any sort of accolades because I've never had any. People would always ask me, that's a really disappointing experience. Like, how does that make you feel? And I was always like, I don't know, you know, it is what it is. It was just 2 years of my life that I spent working on stuff that I never released, but it was fine. And, but it always sat there. You know, I always felt it or heard it in some way. And then it came to one night when I was sitting and talking with my friend Mike Gazzo, and we were just kind of like reflecting on our lives and reflecting on our experiences in the music industry. And he and I collectively came up with this idea for this is how I got here. And he was like, just reach out. Like, it can't hurt, meaning reach out to the label. He's like, the worst that they can do is say no, and you're just still in the same position that you're in. And I was like, yeah, it doesn't change anything. If they say no, I'm here. And if they say yes, like, what an amazing opportunity. So I really realized I had nothing to lose, and that for the most part, like, people are reasonable. You can have conversations with people. You can just come from a real place and like say, this is how it affected me. Like, I was young, I would still love the opportunity to like give life to the thing that we all put a lot of time and effort into. And I think that it could be, you know, serendipitous for all of us. And everybody kind of collectively agreed, and I was like, oh shit. And that's when the excitement started to creep in, and I didn't realize how like important it was to me and how exciting it could be for me until it was like after that phone call, and I was like, oh, cool, like, we can actually do this. Like, it wasn't necessarily all in vain. I realized how wildly important it was for me, because there was a version of me from 5 years ago or 6 years ago, whenever it was, that was sitting inside of me begging to let this live.
To an always. Goodbye to the old ways. I'll love you forever. I'll miss you in a new place. Goodbye to the shed by the water. Goodbye to the hallway of picture frames. And I'll miss you in the summer, in the winter too. I'll miss you in a new place.
So yes, this may be taboo to release music that is 5 years old, like maybe isn't as contemporary as some of the newer music. I'm 5 years younger, I have a shaved head, like it's wildly different.
The walls that held me up and kept me safe.
But it's really empowering, it's really exciting to just say, well, I'm just gonna do what I want. I get to do what I want.
Goodbye to the family dinners around the table. Red wine and kitchen cabinets full of mangoes. I'll carry the stories that my parents told, and I'll tell them in a new home. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you wherever I go.
I feel like it's helping me find the most authentic version of myself, because I didn't really explore that before. I just took everybody else's advice or words or guidance rather than being like, okay, well, what does Jordan want? What do I want to do? And that's exciting to me because it feels like the start of Jordan, more so than it's ever been. You know, it feels like I'm starting something for myself and introducing myself in a way that I never got to before. So I'm really proud of myself for that.